This would offer parents, students a chance for a possible better education, create some kind of competition. The other concern that was brought up at the meeting was possibly the correct address. Other than that, I think it's a good item to be a good thing for you folks to consider. Thank you.
About 505?
Yes, sir.
Well, we don't know for sure. That's the address that is on the fence. But my guess is that two is following off of that because the public safety building is something in the neighborhood of 1685 South Great Basin Boulevard, and this is further south than that. So I'm guessing it's 25 or
I address there. They used to own that property. Bought it. What year did I buy that? 2005. I went through the same problems. The correct address for that piece of property is 505 South Fields Highway. At some point, there's a shift from Great Basin to Fields Highway, and to South Fields Highway. Now, don't ask me to explain why it's that way, but there is extreme confusion. They had to deal with that when they bought the property, get power.
We'll go with 505. Any other public comment? Okay, if there's no other public hearing comment, I'll close the hearing and move on to finish this up right now. Number 10, discussion possible action item pertaining to the public hearing. General 20th, discussion possible action consideration to vote application for variance related to the proposed use of the property located 505 South Great Basin Highway Healing for the charter school, which is less than use than the current zoning of M1. The applicant is going to go.
I move we grant this variance.
let me provide you with some information. The Planning Commission did vote to recommend for approval of this, and essentially the zoning is not going to change. What they're asking for is a variance to allow a school in the M1 zone that is currently not authorized by the zoning ordinances. And so the Planning Commission did vote to recommend approval of this variance.
Any other questions?
I'll second.
Well, we've got a couple of time on
I have something to add to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
That property is on M1, 20 acres, several buildings. The building in question, indeed, has classrooms in it already, and it's not unusual to have an educational facility or educational facility in a manufacturing center. Okay. I do not believe that the charter school should have to get a variance, pay the cost of that in order to do something on M1, which is less, where there was an intrusive, intensive, I'd say obnoxious. The school is much less obnoxious than how that property could be used under M1. Under M1, it can be used for all kinds of manufacturing, up to and including foundry work. Okay, that would have noxious fumes, noise, 24-hour day operation. I'm offended, and I think it's one thing we need to change for the city, that charter school would have to go to the trouble of getting a variance to do something that is less obnoxious than what is allowed in the zone. So that's my comment.
Could I comment on that?
Sir.
The reason that you don't have a blanket authorization to have a school within an M1 zone, certainly there are some educational facilities that are involved with manufacturing that generally deal with adults. When you're talking about kids, you don't want a school generally in an area where there's going to be big trucks driving through, where there's going to be obnoxious fumes, like you said. You don't want children in that type of zone. That's why it is appropriate to request a variance. I don't believe that it would be appropriate to allow just a blanket, we're going to authorize schools in an M1 zone. That's really not the issue here, but I believe, and if I were to give a recommendation, which I'm not, that's not my role, I don't think there's a problem in this particular instance, but still, I believe that they did need to apply for the variance because it is an M1 zone, and who knows, because there are other buildings there could be another building located on that property that still is authorized to be manufactured.
I got a question then. Does this mean that, since you said it was 17 or 18 acres, that now that the school is there, that if somebody wanted to put something in one, they could not now?
No, they still couldn't. That's still an M1 zone. They didn't apply for a change of zoning.
Right. So
That's still an M1 zone. This is just authorizing.
So we're not stopping manufacturing going next to a school, basically.
Okay, with that, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mark, you don't have a copy.
No, that's all property.
Okay, with that, we'll go on to items for discussion, possible action, the Blue City Council and recommended by the utility board. Number one, board member, City Attorney Gregg. Elka Leona, discussion of possible action, consideration of Leona Blackboard, state request and a waiver of landfill fees and penalties, appears prior to Leona 5 on 22 6th Street, 24 East Hill Street, 26 East Hill Street, and 34 Sunday Street.
I have. First, let me just clarify a few things because this was on your last agenda, and as I reviewed the minutes for this, there was some concern that I had put this on the agenda, and Ms. Pickering was upset that she had to appear when I wasn't here. Let me make the record clear that Ms. and I don't know how to pronounce her name, Lona. Ms. Lona was the one that contacted me initially and asked for a reduction in the landfill fees associated with these. And as I always do, I tell her I don't have the authority to do that except to waive the penalties because you guys have given that grace period. And so if she wanted something more than that, we would have to present it to the city council. And I asked her if she wanted it presented to the city council. And she requested that she be given that opportunity to request a greater reduction to the city council. So it was at her request. After that telephone call, I did learn that she was represented by Ms. Pickering. Otherwise, I would not have even spoken with her about the issue. But ultimately, it was Ms. Lona that had requested that that be on your agenda. And then as I was reviewing the minutes as well, Ms. Pickering indicated that we didn't, I guess, pay attention to the advertisement that they put in the newspaper. However, the law does state, NRS 155.020, that with regards to the notice of creditors, that as soon as practicable after appointment, a personal representative shall, in addition to publishing the notice to creditors, mail a copy of the notice to those creditors whose names and addresses are readily ascertainable as of the date of the first publication of the notice and who have not already filed a claim. We have still never received the notice to creditors that should have been mailed to us by the estate. And pursuant to 155.010, that notice should be provided by certified letter. And like I say, we have never received any kind of certified letter with regards to the notice to creditors. And because we've dealt with Ms. Pickering on her own properties, she certainly would be aware that there are potential landfill fees out there. We have continued to send monthly bills to the address, the billing address that we have there. And if they closed that post office box and didn't check that, then they certainly shouldn't do that because that's how you receive information about potential creditors that are out there, that you should then send that certified notice to you. So that's essentially where that is at.
Does anybody know whether these properties are abandoned, have they been rented out? Are people living there where they're collecting rent on these properties?
I believe 2 of them have been sold subject to owner carry. 1 may be in the process of being taken back.
No, I don't mean now, I mean.
During Yeah, I believe at least one of them was subject to owner carry with Ms. Blackmore, and one was Ms. Blackmore's own home, and the other two, I'm not sure what she was doing with them. But all of the mail items were going to, at least some of the items were going to the PO box, and I actually do have a copy of the bills that were being returned to sender. So the city was getting the bill back on those homes because the PO box had been allocated temporarily away, returned to sender. And this is as of October 31st, 2012. And my client did not receive a more current bill until I have January 31st, 2013. And while Mr. Briggs certainly states the law correctly with regards to the requirement to give notice to creditors where that notice is ascertainable and readily knowable to the executrix, and my knowledge of my property in Ely or McGill, or Ruth rather, certainly would have no relevance to Ms. Helga Leone's knowledge of her properties, and they aren't her property. She lives in Ely. She doesn't live in Ruth. She's simply managing the estate. She had no real actual knowledge until January of this bill. That's the whole purpose of publishing a newspaper, giving creditors 60 days. And in particular, to the case law on that issue, creditors' claims expired December 18, 2012, after those notices were published in the paper. We did not get a bill until mid-January 2013 for those water bills. Somewhere in the region of, well, it's hard to say, but this one's for $2,773. We've got the breakdown. We're looking at somewhere in the region of $12,000. We can only go back to 2011, given the billing practices, therefore I can't even verify what the bills and where they came from prior to 2011. I assume we didn't acquire $12,000 worth of water bills or dump fill bills in 2 years, 3 years. Moreover, if we go to NRS 155.020, we talk about a 60-day bar with regards to the filing of the notice to creditors. However, if you go into NRS 155.020, it does state that after the date for the filing of those notices through the publication, the estate has no further requirement after the 60 days to then notify any additional creditors when they become known to the creditor. Now, me and Mr. Briggs, Kevin Briggs, have talked about this issue before. I believe sometime in March at least we began our discussion on these bills, trying to determine how much they were, which properties they were related to. This time, the city has still yet to file a notice of creditors with the estate. Now, that's over at the district court. That's a whole separate jurisdiction to this issue here. My general issue with this is district court now has this matter under their belt. There's a probate case that has been opened. You're welcome to file a notice of creditors in this case. We have a certain amount of time that we get to accept or reject those creditor claims. We would obviously reject the particular claim which was filed, and then there would be a hearing set in the district court to determine whether or not my client had reasonable notice that these bills existed with regards to those houses. That's not today. That's district court. I believe my client kept getting these bills, and so she finally called the city to see what was going on, where these bills came from, to get them sent to their appropriate place. So if you were to waive these fees and bills today, great. Case closed. I don't have to deal with it in my probate case. If you choose not to, I'm going to carry on with my probate case, and I'm going to continue to do the notices and close my probate case. And if you want to file the notice of creditor in that case, that would be great. We'll deal with it in district court. But I suppose today we would ask that you waive those claims, mostly for my client's sake, to be more expeditious, save for more attorney's fees in her probate case, and to get the matter resolved today. Otherwise, we're going to take this case with the district court, spending more time and money on both parts as far as dealing with the matter.
What was the date of death?
She died in August, let's see. I think August of 2012.
So there were still 2 months that mail was being received at that post office box.
We don't have those bills. We only have the one showing in October that it was returned to the city.
If you got that from the city?
I believe she must have got this later on. I don't know when she got this, but it shows November 7th, 2012, temporarily away, returned to sender. And prior to that, I have a list of 15, 20 creditors that we gave notice to. So every single creditor that we were aware of, and we went through all of the bills and everything, we gave notice to a lot of creditors, and all that information is in the file. We've already paid the ambulance and the hospital for their claims that were associated with this case. So we're not trying to avoid payment of bills. We're just trying to follow the procedure that, we're required to do. Obviously, $12,000 is going to be a lot for this, or the value of one of those houses up the roof, quite honestly, at this point. So we would certainly ask that the city council considering waiving those fees. She is actually providing me with a check that we're going to have today to pay the water bill from date of death to current. So we're going to accept those as being legitimate claims and separate to those due to the state.
This would just be landfill fees.
This is just $12 a month landfill fees that go all the way back to who knows how far back. But it looks from the accounting that was provided to me by a fax prior to the last meeting, we're up into the region of $12,000 once you add in fees, interest. It's hard to say, it's a lot of money, but I would obviously also object to the claim and the amount because I can't determine when it started, which houses get which bill, and how far back it goes.
Well, actually, the monthly fee is 13.
Right. We have
Not 12.
12, 13, there we go. Apples and oranges. Either way, you can pay $13 a month from last August onwards for all houses.
Any questions?
Is it permissible to require exactly the value of the estate estimates?
It's a summary administration, so the estate is valued at under $200,000. It can be anywhere from $75,000 to $200,000. We actually went with summary administration because there were creditors, and we have to give notice to creditors. The actual value of the estate may still come in at under $75,000. Like I said, I have assessed values of homes coming in at $12,000, $22,000. Unfortunately,
The assessed value is
it's 3 times the assessed value, so it's actually the assessed value would be $3,000. You times that by 3, you get the net taxable assessed value. And in lieu of doing an appraisal, we can use that, especially for reducing under administration, where you're replacing $200,000.
I'm sure that it's a lot of years, because my personal belief with Ms. Blackmore flows that she did not represent the city.
She's memorable. It's hard to forget. She also goes by I'm Redeemed, a.k.a. Do you have any questions?
No. I don't have any questions.
I've got a question for Kevin. If Ms. Pickering pursues what you suggested there, forgive me, pitching this in the district court, essentially.
It's already in this report. It's been in there since, gosh, last.
Any
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what are our chances, or what would it cost to try to recover this in that field?
That's really hard to say. It's really going to come down to whether or not the judge makes that requirement that she needed to send notice to the creditors to us as a creditor. If not, then obviously we would not be entitled to the fees prior to the date of death. If the judge determined that she needed to file that notice to creditors or provide us with that notice to creditors, I'm sure the court would give her time to do that. We would then have 60 days to file our creditor's claim. It's hard to say what the judge would decide.
Has the city done everything it was responsible to collect the money in the past? Was there anything else we could have done? Are we at fault in any way?
Well, we certainly could have started the process of cleaning properties much earlier. I mean, that law changed, I want to say, either 2007 or 2009, which allowed us to clean properties for landfill fees. I didn't become aware of that until a year or 2 after that, in discussions with the department. The company that picks up their garbage down there, I forget the name of that. I've had some discussions with them, and they assisted me in doing the ordinance that we have now in place that authorizes us to lien properties pursuant to that state law. And so we started that process. We sent the initial notice to Ms. Redeem, and it, at this point, has been delayed. We didn't want to do anything during this grace period that was in the because I don't believe it's appropriate to lien properties when a person potentially can come in and get all the penalties waived.
Well, let me ask you this, as a city attorney, what would you suggest?
Well, personally, if they're willing to pay from the date of death, August of 2012, take what you can get, I guess.
We can write a check tomorrow for that amount. Cash.
probably the majority of that $12,000 is going to be camera,
So, yeah.
because that accrues every month.
I'm gonna make a motion to accept, the day so now. We probably were at fault, dropping the ball in the past, one way or the other. So, I make that motion to accept the data that, we accept that. David,
Parents will waive all prior fees and penalties, whatever they do.
right.
Have a second?
I would second that. I have one other question though, pertaining to that. Bills, you have a record that bills were being returned to City Hall. I'll take your word for it.
I can provide you, I actually brought copies, so it's either day.
So bills that we sent out were being returned.
So the city knew they weren't getting the bills.
I would assume so. I can't make that assumption for the city, but if I send out mail and it comes back to you, under, say, rules of civil procedure, if you mail out a letter, it's assumed to have been received by the receiving party unless you get it back. If you get it back, it's assumed not to have reached that person.
Although obviously, this letter's been open and this,
Oh, that's just me making copies of it and stapling it together with a lot of other bills.
normally that would come back in a sealed envelope with that
And I don't know if that
sticker on
was,
there.
I assume the city gave that to her when she went in and gave that as a copy to her.
There's a lot of things that could be returned to sender that we not even been returned to the city.
Yeah, I mean, obviously as a attorney, I would have given you notice if I'd known. We gave lots of people notice.
Okay, we've had a motion, we've had a second. Any public comment?
We could call the public comment.
Guys, you like?
I am asked that you would consider using your discretion to waive a bill already being supervised by the court to ensure its legality. That you, in advance of the court, would use the discretion to burden all 4,000 some hundred people in Ely with a $3 bill. Prior commission, barely over a year ago, made a fatal mistake by deciding that, a couple bucks don't matter to the utility payers in this community. And that's exactly what you're looking at. I think some of you are thinking you're Santa Claus. Every waiver puts less teeth in your ability to collect bills around here. And I will say from my perspective that I would lobby the county official to be less persuaded by money needs of the county when it just gets thrown away, arguably, here. It's maybe a couple of bucks per taxpayer, but I think it kills the incentive, the sense of responsibility that people have. And frankly, the sense of responsibility that families have, who now, in the sad aftermath of the passing of a parent, have hired an attorney, and a very good one, to come before you and make a very sound argument, but an equitable argument, not a legal argument, on why they shouldn't have to pay bills. Where were those kids a year and a half ago? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody else? Okay, if there's no other comment, open the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
They opposing.
3 to 2 again. Thank you.
Kevin, I'll provide you with my ongoing notices and procedures regarding the state and the order filed by Washington.
All right, with that, we'll go to the next item for discussion, possible action, recommended by the city planning commission. Number 1, planning and discussion, possible action, for occupation permit, to Linda Davies, to conduct an embroidery sewing business, as Tool Control, embroidery, located in 1291 15th Street, East Ely, Kentucky.
And while Ms. Davies is coming up, and she's coming up, if we could just let Warren know. Warren, your item was addressed.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ms. Davies here, what did you
Planning Commission voted
She
to
was here,
recommend.
but she had to leave because she had company. She has a She gave me a phone number if you wanted to talk to her. She just asked me if I tell you that.
The planning commission voted to recommend approval of this home occupation permit. There are no chemicals involved with this. Very little traffic will be involved.
Any other discussion? We have a motion. Second. Any opposed? No.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to speak in favor of granting this home occupation, but I don't want this lady to pay any more than anyone else, and you've got my concerns in regards to a former employee in their business. You get to collect energy from them. Why are you doing this to this poor woman? Pardon me?
That's not part of this agenda item.
My concern is
Even the fees that she paid are not part of this agenda item.
the approval is based on the fact that she's done all of that, Counselor. Thank you.
Anybody else from public comment? Okay, we go on to public comment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 2, commission members, discussion possible action consideration of a landscape ordinance for C-2 zones.
There was no motion made on this. The planning commission wanted to take more time and contact other communities to compare if they've got any kind of landscape ordinance for commercial zones. So they're not prepared at this point to make a recommendation. However you guys wanted it, they did not table it, they just died for lack of a motion.
Can you guys turn and make a motion? If there's no motion, then okay, with that, we'll move on to 7, items for discussion possible action of the City Council as recommended by the City Reorganization Committee, President Chairman Hanson, discussion possible action consideration of proposals regarding reorganization of the administrative structure of the City of Boone, Nevada, including position titles, their job descriptions, minimum and preferred qualifications for applicants, grade level, salary schedules, organizational charting, and lines of reporting, and from there. And Mr. Hanson, before I turn it over to you, I think I missed 1 or 2 meetings, but I don't remember ever addressing anything about most of the stuff that seemed like all we were talking about was forecast.
That is primarily what we talked about, for absence of funds to be able to change dramatically the current salary schedule, and left that intact. So we just don't have the budget to be able to make any radical changes to the salary schedule. So,
And also on there's so many voting, I'm not sure which one.
there are 3 of them that we ultimately have submitted here.
One of the things I wanted to, and Brad's not here, I was going to have him address it, he was not here, Brad Christensen, was concerned about the building inspector being part of the safety. It's part of safety.
Yes, I learned yesterday from Chris Flannery, who is the county building inspector, that if in fact we were to have him report to the public works director, we would be in violation of NRS 278, because we have to have the same qualifications and certifications the building inspector has. And that previously, at the present time, the building inspector was actually an exempt employee, which I was unaware, and also reports, or has been reporting directly to the council. So any of these plans, in fact, to my knowledge, none of these plans that reflect that, and that would have to be modification made to whatever plan we want to accept and go with.
And one of the concerns also is, part of Bradley, with the building inspector, since the city engineer is not an employee.
Correct. We did not want to have a full-time city employee related to the contract.
Right. So that was his concern. Okay, anything else?
We have 3 different plans here, and we have the authors of them all here, which I think would be
probably appropriate to have each of the authors speak to those.
Mine is the one that doesn't look as nice as Sam's, but looks slightly more done on a computer than Marty's. So, if that makes any sense there. Oh no, my graphic design hat is off too, Sam. Attached to my flowchart, the...
Excuse me. I can't find your flow chart. There's another member of the audience. Do they have two here? Another member of the audience would like one.
At any rate, the attached document to that, as stated in that document, only deals with the two positions that we were really having much debate about. I didn't feel it was worth the time to go through and redefine everybody's job descriptions from the top to the bottom, as most of those wouldn't change. My plan was in favor for keeping a city administrator to be known as the city clerk. For several reasons that are delineated on there. If you have any questions about that, I'd certainly be willing to talk to that. And I did think Marty's suggestion at the beginning of our process here that we needed someone to be overseeing public works was a good one. We had talked about having this city administrator, the city clerk, deal more with economic development, and by providing somebody to oversee more of the day-to-day public works load, that would free him up to be able to do more of that with his time. However, my concern was that if we were paying already for a contract city engineering firm, and then also paying someone who would be the public works director, that's hiring more professionals than I thought we had the budget for. And as I had discussions in our meeting, I felt that calling them a public works director, certainly as someone who works in the industry of engineering and construction, I personally have certain expectations of someone who's called a public works director. And those expectations come with a certain skill set and a certain expected pay rate, I felt. But as the council has expressed, I believe through their actions, some willingness and desire to get rid of individual department supervisors. We could do away with that and just hire one supervisor, the public works supervisor, who kind of coordinates all that work, and then just have lead people in each of the departments. And this, I believe, would further reduce the salary constraints, or the salary demands, because you're not paying 4 supervisors, you're paying 1, and then having lead people in each of the departments. And then that spoke to Marty and I's discussion about the need to have some coordination among our departments like that, because we do have limited resources. We do have people that have a lot of skill, and being able to use that skill across the different departments, I think, is a benefit. And that's why I suggested putting a public works supervisor instead of a public works director. So that's the long and short of it. You have my 2-page report on that. If you want to mark it up and give it back to me and grade it, that's fine. Are there any any questions that I could answer for you on that report? Thank you.
Thank you for all your efforts. Marty, the next one yours.
I take the term cut and paste quite literally. I guess the reason mine looks like it does is because there's 2 things there's a lot of things that are important, but I don't know that we can afford a department head for every department. I think it would be wise to have a director of public works. I think an important part of my flow chart is down in the left-hand corner, a labor pool. We cannot implement any of this instantly, but over time I think it would be important to try to get some people any of this, and I don't think there's anything on here that precludes anyone from talking with anyone else, although there are chain of command and different grievances sometimes. I firmly believe that this is a hands-on council in a town of this size and meeting essentially every 2 weeks. I think it's I'm not going to say easy, but I think it's a duty of the council to manage these different people. The two main people here are the Director of Public Works and what I would make is the clerk treasurer. That's what we used to have. I'm not forgetting about the fire department and municipal court, but I see those as running themselves. They're fairly autonomous entities. They do have to report to us. We do have a budget for them. But I don't think they need our oversight as the Director of Public Works would, for example. So I just drew what I thought was best. There's one thing that I might change from what I've suggested to you here. I would probably prefer to see animal control, which are called dogs and cats, just report directly to the clerk or the clerk treasurer. Office staff works, but the reason why it's there is because it will be that office, the clerk treasurer's office, that will be handling the licensing and all the paperwork essentially involved with the animal control system. So for that reason, that's why I would replace the animal control officer in that position.
Proposal I put forward, like I said, would have to be modified anyway with information which we have learned that would require or change rather the building inspector to report directly to the city council as well. Otherwise, taking into account a lot of the other discussions and conversations we've had with other members of the committee and others in the community and city management even ways in terms of comment on it. This particular draft has a significant sharing of responsibility between the city clerk, treasurer / administrator, public works director. One of my issues with nomenclature is city clerk treasurer is fine, but if you're going to be the primary person responsible for the general administration outside of public works, then I think that term administrator needs to be appended to it, to the title, to make that clear delineation. It reunites the position of clerk and treasurer, but it does leave also the public works director intact, and it has underneath that, of course, water sewer run by a lead supervisor, landfill also run by a lead supervisor. There's a working supervisor. They also work beside supervising. Roads and storm drains also run by a lead supervisor. And parks, maintenance, building, sanitary, and volunteer coordinator likewise being directed by a lead supervisor. And you have your permanent staff under each of those. And then, of course, you have also that seasonal / floating labor pool, which will also report and float around between those organizations as required. The animal control officer, for discussion, was thought best to place underneath the city treasurer / administrator, as well as the office staff. As pointed out, the fire department has definitely a responsibility to report to fire chief, but also needs to have someone else to whom they can go with specific questions and concerns from an administrative point of view. So we've done dual reporting for them to both the fire chief and to the city clerk administrator. Of course, the volunteer firemen are placed underneath the fire department. The municipal judge and city attorney / prosecutor are off to the side reporting directly to the council, which is largely the case which we have now, as well as the city engineer, working closely with, is delineated by that hand pointing over there to that public works director. And of course, the administrative assistant reporting to the city council directly and working closely with the city clerk treasurer / administrator. Given some basic descriptions of the duties of the clerk treasurer administrator and also of the public works director, we do have added on to there coordinating economic development activities and grant writing. There have been some suggestions, even since this was put together, on other ways we might be able to accomplish that task, but we don't currently have that formally as part of the job description, as I recall. On the back of the sheet, I have more detailed education experience desired for both city administrator and city public works director. These were tailored after careful observation and comparison with comparable municipalities, but also so written as to allow continuance of those people who are currently serving in those positions or close to those positions. Knowledge of key functions available or expected, and then required skills and abilities in each of those. The rationale of this particular plan is that it remains within the current budget constraints of the city. Specifically, it adds no new full-time employees. It streamlines the present organization and clarifies the responsibilities of the principal agents of the city administration. Provides lines of reporting for some subordinate employees who previously had no buffer between themselves and the department head, and consolidates some previously disparate functions into one administrative entity. Those are our three proposals for the consideration by the council. You can do whatever you want to with them, but our work is done. Just vote to leave things the way they are.
First of all, I like to hear about something of with the company that will change it. And we talked about that until the inspector.
Which one do you like?
I can't hear you. Oh, okay. I'll do that would be the only change, but I like Nathan's. Maybe I could fight the vote on that idea better. And Nathan, like Councilman Westbrook, he's still included the mayor part of the operation. And, so that's.
I like the one that third grade did. The third grader. Mayor. Could I add one more thing?
Yes.
Just one last thing to think about, and whether or not to keep a city administrator, whatever we may be calling them. I do agree that this is a small community, and people should be hands-on, looking to help and work and everything, but I think one thing we need to consider is that we don't control how this legislation goes 5-10 years down the road. I mean, now we do have a pretty competent professional council, but you weren't elected on those premises. 5 years from now, we could have 5 kindergarten teachers up here, and what business do they have telling a public works director how to be doing their job? No offense to the educational profession.
Kindergarten teachers know a whole lot more than I do.
They do. And to everything I need to know in life, I would be kindergarten as opposed to
I speak with an elementary school teacher, so I can testify to that.
Sure. But it's councilmen aren't elected on their professional merits or on their area of expertise, and that's why we hire professionals to run these aspects of the city. And protecting those people to some degree from, and forgive the term, but day-to-day meddling from individual voters and individual elected officials is part of what makes our form of government work and run efficiently day-to-day. And I would just like to leave that topic to the council before they vote.
I couldn't agree with you more. At first, I thought you were coming up and said, no, I'm not going to take the mayor off after I talked to Mr.
Cut my way out.
I'm not sure. Any other discussion?
I do like Marty's with putting the council and the mayor in there and changing the building inspector to go back up to report to the council and the mayor. And let the dogs and cats go to the clerk and not to the office there.
Okay,
I would like to take this opportunity to say that I apologize to the mayor, but I consider him an integral part of this council. So you are indeed, whether you like it or not, you are indeed the chairman.
And you're pretty red right now, Marty.
That's what
the exception of the building inspector answering to the clerk. I think the building inspector should answer to the council. And animal control, instead of answering to office staff, should answer to the clerk. Yeah, we'll put the mayor at the top.
Yeah, let's get the mayor on there.
And I think the clerk treasurer is a good idea, and the director of public works was a good idea. For a small town of 4,000, our payroll was over $1.5 million a year, and this will help that quite a bit. Motion we accept
Washington.
I second that.
Yeah, but that's the one that we, I got this one here.
Yeah, that's the one, except you gotta write your name at the top under voters.
All right, we have a second.
I second.
Public comment. On this item.
Jim Norton, city resident. There's one thing that I think the council should be aware of is they do not want to have happen to them or future councils what happened in the past, to where the council and the mayor has been taken out of the loop rather than, and the city being run by City Hall rather than the elected people. I can understand what Nathan said, but I disagree with it for one reason. I elect people for people to represent me. And I do totally agree with how the council has acted since taking over for one reason, is because the City Hall of the past did not respect you, they did not like you, and they would do anything to go around you, to circumvent you. So I would, and listen to the approach charts, I do agree with the one Marty had, following the law with the building supervisor and making sure that everything's taken care of. But do not allow the elected people to never be in the loop. And that is what happened in the last 10 years up until the city council. Thank you.
Jim, I did want to point out that at the very top of Marty's chart is the voters of Ely.
Yes, I did see that.
Okay.
Anybody else for public comment? If there's no other public comment, and I will add that with all due respect, it's not on behalf of voters, except that we're going to have an election on a daily basis to ask the voters to come to the room. That's not what we have to do. No, voters should not be on the vote on a daily basis. In all due respect to the voters at election day, where they vote in representatives to govern. If somebody comes down below, works their way up, and they want to talk to the city councilman, and the city council will, wait a minute, I gotta go see if the voters are going to like this or not. I don't think the city will function. Now, I know it's a nice gesture, but they're not, they shouldn't be on the floor.
Mayor, I agree, so I amend my...
We're here to govern. Every election, they can change it. And that happened in the last election. We will listen to them whenever they talk to us.
I think it was more of a gesture.
I think it was.
Gesture on Marty's part, so I will amend my motion to remove the voters over the mayor. So Mayor, you're back on top.
No, I'm not. The council and the mayor on. In fact, you guys are a little above me, probably more. Okay, and so that's your
I'm in my second.
Now, just to clarify that, your changes, Bruce, kick voters off.
Was the animal control?
Building inspector answers to the council.
Correct.
Okay. And animal control.
Answers to the clerk treasurer.
And actually, the building inspector answers to the mayor.
The mayor.
Read it to that box.
And any other public comment? Okay, if there's no other public comment, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And with that, we'll go to number 8, items for discussion of action
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second. Okay, any public comment on the minutes of payment bill?
On what?
The minutes, the approval of the minutes of payment bill. Okay, there's none, all in favor, say aye.
I still not opposed to abstaining from the August 8th minutes. Because I wasn't present.
All right, with that, we'll go to B, new business.
Mayor, I'm sorry. On June 10th, council in place was the old council except for Councilman Ridge and last month. So I listened to the audio and this is accurate. As far as others voting on it, sorry.
Any questions from Jim? Piece of Jim. One's over there too, on the other side. Okay, I'm gonna skip, I'm gonna go to number one here, then the next two. Is Richard here now? Okay, yeah, I asked him.
So,
Well, let me do this.
that's not this one, rather than trading that to the end.
Okay. I thought we were going to do number 3 and 1 and 2. Was that not?
No, we'll go 1, 2, and drop 3 if we have to.
I think it should be that way.
You think?
Three was tabled from last meeting, and I think by Robert's rules of order, a tabled agenda item should come before any new business. I looked it up this morning.
Okay.
So anything that was in the new business part, anything was tabled from the last meeting should be in front of anything that wasn't tabled. So number 3 is the table item.
All right, then the problem might be if we go to number 3 first, and solicit, and then we approve number 1 and 2.
That would make 1 and 2 mute. If you pass 3, 1 and 2 would be mute.
Oh, can I just briefly? I did speak to Rich. He apologized. He said he has no objection to 3. My understanding was I just misunderstood. I thought you guys were going to move 3 in front of 1 and 2. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I agree with Councilman Durbin.
So that's fine, because I moved it to the end anyway, so I'll just move it next week. I'll do that. So we're confusing me, so goes, but we'll go with that. So let me read in number 3 first. Councilman Weston, discussion of possible action, consideration to solicit proposals for contract legal services for the city of Beaver. Any comment? I was not comment, discussion.
I understand that when we're hiring professional services, we are not required to advertise for those services. However, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't. I personally would probably prefer to have legal counsel that could do both of the jobs. And I think the only way that we're going to find out whether we can obtain that is to advertise for that. The language that I proposed at the last council meeting, which we tabled because of Kevin's absence, was the following. The city of Ely is soliciting proposals to provide legal services to the city. The city requires, number 1, administrative and legal counsel, and 2, criminal prosecution on behalf of the city. Proposals may offer to satisfy one or both of the requirements. Successful applicants will be expected to provide his own office and staff and will be acting as a contractor to the city. No employee benefits are attached to this position. I would move that we adopt that policy and advertise those positions for that position.
Any other discussion? Yeah.
Well, I think we need to have transparency with our government, and that's the only way to be transparent to the public is to see if we have more proposals out there. And by seeking more proposals, we can decide what is the best, and not necessarily on the cost, but we also might be seeking some cost savings for the city, which should be paramount to all of us.
I might also add that advertising is not prohibited. Mr. Graves or Mr. Sears from presenting their proposal.
Any other discussion?
consideration on his proposal before we invite other proposals. I guess you can. Cameron?
We have a second.
Second.
Before you do that, one of the things that I would suggest you do for the motion with regards to the ad, because you didn't address at all any kind of civil issues that arise relatively often within the city. So I don't know if you're going to include that. You just provide administrative and legal advice.
Okay. I would defer to you, Kevin, on how that should be worded, because you were the one that suggested splitting the job into the two parts. So that's why I worded it that way. So whatever wording would have to be incorporated there, for you on that. But which part was in error?
But I just don't believe you addressed the civil requirements that an attorney also has to, for example, your collections issues, your defending the city against lawsuits that may be applied against the city.
I guess I was
prosecuting potentially civil lawsuits as well.
okay. Would that fall under the broad heading of administrative and legal counsel?
Generally, it is not.
Okay. How would that be worded? Because criminal prosecution is off on its own. Okay. What wording would you suggest?
Just add and civil duties, okay, or civil law requirements that the city may face.
You'd add that to number one. Administrative and legal counsel and civil. I'm sorry.
Administrative legal counsel and any civil legal work required by the city.
And any civil work required by the city.
Civil legal work.
Civil legal work required by the city. I would amend my motion to incorporate Kevin's language.
So are we still in the discussion phase? Do you have a second article? I would like to point out, I did submit my notice of resignation yesterday. My last day as a city employee will be September 3rd. There are a number of criminal cases that are coming up for trial between now and your next meeting, September 12th. So I guess you're going to have to figure out how you're going to address those.
I don't read, it says advertisement, that doesn't mean we have to publish in the paper. We could send out letters to all the attorneys in the surrounding area and see proposals. We could also have a special meeting next Thursday or Friday, which would be time enough to post it, and should anybody who's interested should have a proposal back by then.
Who's that? Public comment.
Good afternoon, Scott Husbands, on behalf of my law firm, Ginoli Husbands. I just wanted to say that I support the motion and the second. I think it's a great idea to send it out to the public bid. And I think given the small number of lawyers here, you can send a letter out to the community, those lawyers in the community, have them include their proposal and then do a special meeting and just get it squared away within the time that Mr. Briggs is concerned about some of these trials. And I think separating the criminal stuff and then just leaving everything else to somebody else is a really excellent way to do it. So I'm here to say that my firm would be pleased to review and submit a proposal for this and